I like the way this feel. Yeah. Let my soul cry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Minister. We gonna speak from the heart on this one. I'm performing lyrical funerals, no obituary. I killed your boy and brought him back to life. Pet cemetery. My anointing not based on attendance at a seminary. Scarlet witches, they attracted to the visionary. Everywhere I go, I bring the word with me, missionary. Soldier drafted in the war machine, military. Pay attention, what I'm saying to you, legendary. You got the demeanor of a front desk secretary. That mean you take the calls, but you don't make the calls. That's why you hate, cause ain't nothing fake about me at all. Now I dare you try to say that with a straight face. My delivery in tip-top great shape. I'm too advanced for you, light years, space age. No evolution for you cavemen, stone age. I'm a thoroughbred, rock solid. I came from the bottom to the top, rock climbing. I grew up in the hood, pros and cons. That's that full court pressure when the ambulance roll out their stretcher. Why can't you see it's not logical? And you live diabolical. Boy, your point of view smaller than the hair follicle molecule. This for all of them that follow you, smoking all of them barbecue. When I pull up, your voice don't correct itself with no auto-tune. I got a whole nother level that I can enter whenever I gotta deal with the devil. I pick a whole nother method. I hear a whole lot of yapping. They wanna see my reaction. I'm really out here in the community making it happen. I don't really think they understand the dilemma. They ain't looking at the man in the mirror. Can't say it any clearer. The plan is very simple. It's time to start playing in the temple. Before somebody come and put the can on your temple. Reaching like a baby with his hand for the nipple. The Grand Reaper coming with his hand on the sickle. In the van coming with a ram with the van coming get him. I am so glad that I changed up. Made it out of where I came from. Watch for the slide in the hook of the slow ball, fastball, and that change up. That ghetto lifestyle, it changed us. Go back to visit, it ain't changed much. Only difference is now the way that my brain process information. And Satan, but after my license, day one, let me say something. Only reason that I'm still alive today because God's grace is amazing. Just another raisin in the sun. Dream deferred when things occurred. Now you getting served right on the curb like a lemonade stand. I just gave you the benediction, let the whole church say amen.
Peace, peace, peace. What it is, Brother Tyvon Swain L, a.k.a. the Orthodox Moor, a.k.a. the Seven-Pillared Saracen. Real quick, family, I'm going to bring a real small, short presentation on adding some scholars to the consensus when it comes to the pews. Comparing and contrasting Solitreo in Arabic, etc. Some believe that there is no discernible language on the pews. Some believe that there is multiple languages on the pews, African languages, Semitic languages, etc. Some believe that there are Semitic languages on the pews and African languages, but no Arabic. And then there's people like myself who believe that there's multiple languages, African languages and scripts, African, Semitic, and including Arabic. So with that, family, I'm going to get into a small presentation concerning some emails that I sent out to some scholars. And some responses that I got back that I thought people would find interesting. So without further ado, family, I emailed Dr. Brian Kirshen from Binghamton University in New York to see what he thought about the matter. What I did was I picked a few different people to email, and I sent them, and you'll see here because I'm going to show it, that I sent them pictures of the pews and then highlighted pictures of what would be Solitreo, and then also I picked some people and sent them pictures of the pews and highlighted pictures of what has been speculated to be Arabic, etc. So in doing so, the first one I sent out was to, again, Dr. Brian Kirshen, PhD. His background is that Brian Kirshen holds a joint title in the Department of Romance Languages and the Linguistics program. He is affiliated, and this is at Binghamton University. He is affiliated a faculty of the Translation, Research, and Instruction program and the Department of Judaic Studies. Dr. Kirshen is a sociolinguist specializing in the Spanish language. He has published on Judeo-Spanish, Ladino, and the use of Spanish in the United States. His education is that he has a PhD from the University of California, Los Angeles, etc. You can see all the rest of that, but I want to get into his research interest and whatnot because I thought this was interesting. Again, he is a sociolinguist. He deals with that, sociolinguistics, contact linguistics, language variation, documentary linguistics, language ideologies, Sephardic studies, and Al-Hamiado texts. And I found that to be intriguing and extremely interesting because not only is he does he have a background in Ladino, but he has a background in Al-Hamiado text. And for those who don't know, those are texts of Romance languages, etc., written in Arabic script. And this also includes Ladino. So you have Solitreo, which is cursive Hebrew, and Al-Hamiado, which is the Romance languages, including Ladino, written in Arabic script. So going further, I sent him this email. Shalom, Dr. Kirshen. Oh, look at me spelling the name wrong. I'm missing an S right there. I don't know how that happened. Yep. My name is Tyvon Swainell. My mother descends from a pocket of Sephardic Jews recently found in New Mexico and southern Colorado. Since finding out about our heritage, we have done a lot of study concerning our history, language, and culture. Recently in that research, some friends and acquaintances made me aware of a set of potential carvings made on some wooden pews that may be in the Solitreo script. From what I understand, the building was historically located in an area that had a population of Sephardic Jews in the late 1700s and early 1800s. I have attached two photos, one which is a picture of the wood panel on the side of the pew. The second is a photo with highlighted portions of the panel that are believed to contain Solitreo. In your opinion, is there any Solitreo on this panel? And if so, can you make it out? Thank you for your time and any clarity you are able to provide. So as you can see, I gave him a blank picture of just the pews with no highlights on them, and then I gave a picture of the highlighted portion that Pastor Kelly put together. And so this was the response that I got from Dr. Kirshen. Ooh, did I not put that part in there? Did I just skip it? Yep. Hold on real quick, family. Let me just go ahead and jump straight to the thing. There we go. Bam. His response was, "Hi, Tyvon. Thanks for your email. I've received other inquiries about this same set of pews. The symbols prior to and after the word in yellow appear more similar to the Arabic alphabet than to the Hebrew-based cursive variety, Solitreo. And that's important to note because he's able to distinguish the two, being familiar with Ladino and Al-Hamiado. Based on the portion outlined in yellow, if I were to try and make something out of it, it would be the name Ario. The letters do not exactly conform to Solitreo, and the historical context certainly leaves important room for discussion and consideration as well. Best, Brian Kirshen, Assistant Professor of Spanish, Linguistics, Director of Undergraduate Studies, Department Romance Languages and Literature, Binghamton University." So I thought that was extremely, extremely interesting. Again, one, he's stating that, let me go back. He's stating that the letters on the outside seem to be Arabic, but if he was going to read something on the inside, he would read the name Ario, which off the top of my head, I do believe means like the fire of God or something like that. It's like an angelic name or whatnot, or like the altar fire, something like that. It reminds me of that. I got to look that up. I thought that was a very interesting response. And again, interesting based upon the fact that he's familiar with Ladino and Alhamiado. And again, well, I'll say that for another bit. But I'm definitely going to be touching on some of that what he talked about in another video, because it got me thinking about a few things. But going further, I sent an email to Bashir Mundi, instructor of record at the University of Georgia. Bashir Mundi, I believe, is an imam, but he's also an MA student instructor of record in the Department of Religion at the University of Georgia. He received his degree in religion from the University of Georgia in, I believe, 2006. And 14 years ago, Bashir Mundi traveled to Sapelo Island and made a documentary about the people and the culture there, including interviewing Cornelia Walker Bailey, a late and well-known activist for the Gullah people and their culture. I linked the documentary down below for anybody who's interested in watching it. It's like an hour and change. I thought it was extremely interesting. He goes there on a cultural like festival day to where like it's a celebration to where a lot of people are coming out and celebrating their culture and whatnot. So I thought it was a fantastic documentary. I will be playing some of it here, not the whole thing, but just a portion of it. But I sent him this. Peace and blessings, Ramadan Mubarak. My name is Tavan Swinell, and I recently came across your documentary about Sapelo Island. First and foremost, I would like to say thank you for your labor in documenting the culture and people of Sapelo Island. That will be a treasure for the generations to come. Second, I would like to know if you have any time to be interviewed on YouTube concerning the Islamic aspects of the culture that you were able to witness or were told about. Third, are you or do you know of someone proficient in the different uses of the Ajami script among the different peoples of West Africa? I ask because the First African Baptist Church in Savannah has some carvings in its pews that may contain some form of West African Arabic. Some have postulated that some of the markings may be the third ayat of Surat al-Nas, being that there were multiple being that there were multiple forms, multiple peoples there from tribes that had access to the Arabic script, such as the Fulani, Hausa, and Yoruba, etc. I'm extremely interested in identifying the potential tribal origins if, in fact, the markings are Arabic. Attached is a picture of the pew with the markings and also a picture with the portion thought to be from the Quran highlighted. Thank you very much for your time and labors in the field, and thank you for any clarity you can bring to my inquiries. Most gratefully, Taiwan. So I sent, again, these two attached pictures. This is the blank picture of the pew, and then this is the picture that Abu highlighted. So just to be clear, I picked somebody proficient in Ladino and also knows of Alhamiado, and I sent them what Pastor Kelly was talking about in terms of being Solitreo on there, and then I sent Abu's stuff separately to a whole different person who again, yes, is Muslim, is an imam, but also did a documentary and went to go meet the people at Sapelo Island himself, and got to observe the culture himself. So this is his response. Dear Tavan Swinell, Assalamu alaikum. I was very pleased to receive your email. Thank you for taking time to watch the documentary concerning the Ajami. Excuse me, I'm reading way too fast. For taking the time to watch the documentary. Concerning the Ajami, the view that it is the third ayah of Surah Al-Nas may be correct, but I would like to share the images with some friends with better eyes for these kinds of things. So again, he's not making like the definite claim. Yes, that is what it is. But like what you see with a lot of Abu's videos, there's the tentative, like, yeah, that could be it. But again, he wants to send it to people who have better eyes for such things. He says, I don't mind being interviewed, but I'd rather after Ramadan, inshallah, if that's okay. In fact, I would love to visit Sapelo Island again after 14 years. I wonder how the community is doing. I learned there's been a lot of development by investors who are buying up the lands of the descendants. Quite distressing. Peace, Bashir. So we will definitely be doing an interview after Ramadan concerning his experiences making the documentary and what he was able to learn firsthand from the people on the island. So hold on real quick. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with the brother. Hold on real quick. I'm actually going to show a piece of that documentary because I think it's extremely interesting. I mean, you get to see the shouters, you get to see the people gathering, you get to see their clothing, you get to hear them talking in their dialect. It's extremely interesting, family. Hold on real quick. Let me stop sharing this screen and share a whole nother one. So let me make sure I got my joint up right quick. Oh, no, I don't. So let me stop sharing. Put myself in the back for 2 quick seconds. All right. Now I am going to share this thing. So again, family, this isn't the whole documentary. This is just a small part of it, just a few minutes of it. But I thought people would find this interesting. So without further ado, I'm going to play this thing.
That's a time for me picture of it. Y'all want me to preach to you? So preach down. I church the other Sunday. And I looked right in the closet and I said, I ain't got nothing to put on. Something tell me, said, look up against that wall. That's God Almighty. I find all for. I take them down. I start dusting them up. You know, I had a little set on. I said, okay, that's all right. I ain't worried about that neither at yeah. Guess what color that dress been? Dress been red. That's all I had. But I said, I ain't gonna wear them. Mess around and go to put me on the spider in it. Most bite me. I said, get out your spider. I going to church today. Well, sometimes you ain't got your thing quite right, you know. You ain't fixed up quite right. But I've been going anyhow. That time I get me dressed, I look around for my shoes. I couldn't find nothing but red blue shoes. I said, well, I got a red dress and blue shoes. And
I had to apologize to them people for leaving me. But when I get there, I said, the first thing I'm going to do, that's second that. I'll tell you what I did. I put all the homeless stuff. I laid out the front. I put the red brown shoes. I hit me over. And I started to walk. The past still wasn't fixed. I'll tell you what I did there. And I sat on the front seat because I done baked the pot. He had companies a bunch of children. And they were doing that kind of stuff in the middle of their families ago. I didn't understand what they were doing. They've been hopping and they were skipping and they were boom, 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 boom. They touch too loud. What is that? I said to the child, let me yell again. What is that y'all do? She said, Miss Song, we doing the praise dance. I said, oh, again. Okay, I've been doing a long time. But I tell the child, I guess they're trying to keep y'all in touch. She said, yes, ma'am. They rather us dancing together than dance our tongue. I said, well, I tell you, a lot of y'all dancing again. Anything I got to say about it. But I tell you why I ain't going to do it. I belong to them people they call the shouters. If y'all teach me how to be the praise after I go, I'll teach y'all how to shout. And we can all get together and have a good time, because we all want the glory in here.
He's spreading his love, his light, and his will is gone. Granted us his supper, daily provisions of life to a life so happy, a life so his truth reaches everywhere. It's in our hearts and it's in the air. It's truth that will set you free. Allah is the only reality. Allah is so
Hi, I'm Cornelia Bailey, and I live on Sapelo. I'm a great-great-great-great-granddaughter of Bilal Muhammad. He supposedly had 7 daughters and 5 sons, and like the Bible says, go forth and multiply, and I'm one of the multiplication. I live here in Hoghammock, which consists of 63 people, and we're trying to get some sort of recognition for this community so the community can become more stabilized and more economically feasible for the people who live here and the descendants and our future kids and grandkids of Sapelo. In the meantime, we got a lot of other struggles because we have to worry about the religion aspect. We have to worry about jobs. We have to worry about potential growth. We have to worry about potential developers coming in wanting to buy our property. And once you buy a person property and you misplace people, then the culture and history goes with it. So we got a lot of issues we have to face, and so like I want everybody to know that we need help over here. We need constructive help. We need good help, and so we don't want to lose the religious aspect. People ask me a lot of times, said, "What religion are you?" And I'm going, "Well, I was a Muslim and became a forced Christian because we do a little of both. We kind of straddle the fence here. We're a little bit of a Muslim, we're a little bit of a Christian." So it kind of works. It works here. So when Christianity was first brought here, when it was first recognized in the church, and we built the church in 1865, everybody didn't rush to embrace this new call, this new Christian religion. So they baptized only a few people that first year. And the next year they baptized, we had hundreds of people here. So people give the impression that, okay, we are all Christians, and so when the church was built in 1865, everybody rushed over and changed. We didn't. We have a lot of things that we want to remember, we want to record, we don't want to forget. It may seem just a little bit to some people, but it's important to us. When you put all these little pieces together, it becomes quite important. So the way we bury our dead, the words we say, everything. The word Mecca finally over the years became Maker, because we grew up with your Maker resides in the east, and that's where everything is centrally located. Your prayers are said to the east. You bury your dead facing the east. The church congregation faces the east. Everything goes east because they said that's what's right. Do nothing toward the west because that's where the devil resides at. And so we don't do any kind. If you want a good fussing or you want a spanking at sometime we was growing up, let mama or papa catch you saying your prayers toward the west, and you were in big trouble. You couldn't have, I mean, it's like, what's wrong with you? Are you crazy? The devils reside over there. You should get up and face that way. We have to get up immediately and face the east. So we, as a child, we learned east from west at an early age before we learned anything else. This was east and that was west. And you had to wait because everything's centered around those two locations. And so we just have to keep so much, and we got so many things that people still have to do research on here. And that goes to the right people coming over doing the right research. and gather this information so we all won't be totally lost.
Well, Bilali was only, it was in some report we saw Mr. Bilali Muhammad. Now, I never seen or heard of the Muhammad anymore, but the word Bilali the name Bilali kept trickling on down to his children, grandchildren, great-great-grandchildren, and so forth.
All right, I'm going to stop this one right there, family. Because I thought what was interesting about that there is that along with the PBS documentary, where they talk to people on Sapelo Island, you hear a lot of the concepts about cultural fusion, which makes a lot of sense when you understand that you have people coming in from the Senegambia, people coming in from the Ivory Coast, Gold Coast, etc. You got people coming in from Angola, Congo. You've even got a percentage of the slaves coming in from East Africa. So I thought it was real interesting that both documentaries touched on this whole concept of cultural fusion, which for people like me and Anonymous, etc., who back the potentiality of trade languages, etc., the concept of cultural fusion begins to slow this whole conversation down. And I feel like that's what we need right now in this conversation on the pews is a real slow conversation to where we keep it scholastic, and we look at all the possibilities available and whatnot. So everybody's views are well known. Like I said, you got people who uphold the Solitreo side. You got people who uphold the no language on the pews at all. You got people who uphold multiple languages on the pews, including trade languages, African scripts, Semitic scripts, including Arabic, etc. All of the above, right? And I think it would be beneficial if the notes we're all taking get compared and contrasted by the public, so we can get a real thorough understanding of what's being said. And I want to go over again what the scholars were talking, or the scholars I emailed, what they were talking about, because I think this needs to be touched on again. So just to be clear, Dr. Brian Kirshen, in his response, stipulated this again: the symbols prior to and after the word in yellow appear more similar to the Arabic alphabet than to the Hebrew-based cursive variety. Solitreo, based on the portion outlined in yellow, if I were to try and make something out of it, it would be the name Ariel. The letters do not exactly conform to Solitreo, and the historical context certainly leaves important room for discussion and consideration. That last part there, I want everyone to focus on. The historical context certainly leaves important room for discussion and consideration as well. So he's saying that right off the top. He's like, okay, so the letters don't really conform to Solitreo. But given the historical context, I might there needs to be consideration taken as well. That kind of goes in what Pastor Kelly's talking about, like sometimes when he's saying that that slaves making up a language or dealing with language, etc., might have to violate certain linguistic rules or change certain things or adapt things to their environment. So that needs to be considered. And again, it also needs to be considered that the word Ariel is not too far off from what in terms of the spelling thereof, right? From parts of what would be Israel. So that's intriguing in of itself, I have to say. So I'm someone who publicly stated I don't believe Solitreo is on the pews based upon time and proximity. However, I'm also willing to be convinced otherwise. And statements like this are kind of what would lead me to pause. Well, okay, let me take a look at certain things, right? And what makes me pause even more is the concept of there being potential Arabic letters on the outside of this portion of what potentially could be Solitreo on the pews. So I'm going to touch on that in a whole another video because, like I said, there's a lot of possibilities that I want people to consider. But I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to make this video too long. However, I do want it to be understood that there's a historical context and considerations that do need to slow this thing down on all sides, as to what the implications of what the markings are, how they're put together, etc. So, God willing, I will definitely be going in on a multiple part series concerning that, and hopefully the people will benefit from it. I'm also pleased to say that Benaiah has let me know that he's when he's got time next week, if he's able to finish up a video this week on doing some editing, that we will be doing a follow-up interview concerning the Pews and the Gullah language. So I'm definitely looking forward to that, because Benaiah brought forth some very interesting arguments that I think need to be looked at, addressed, understood, all that kind of stuff. Again, family, I'm someone who I got no issue having conversations with anybody about these topics and whatnot, right? Because at the end of the day, I think the best information needs to come to the top, needs to rise to the top, so everyone can make the best decisions possible based upon the best information. So I think it's beneficial that we sit down with everybody and break down what the actual arguments are for and against, doing our best to leaving out the ad hominems, etc. Keep it as scholastic as possible, and see where the chips fall. Because there's going to be some people right in this and some people wrong in this on all sides. We're all going to have to eat something somewhere. So, for instance, I came out saying right off the top, like, for me personally, on the history that I know about it, I don't believe that Solitreo is on the Pews, right? However, I'm also, as a proper skeptic, I'm also willing to be convinced to the otherwise. I'm not someone who's saying like, oh, there can't be Solitreo in here at all ever, and then that's it. No, I have my reasons as to why I didn't hold to that stance. However, like I said, as a proper skeptic, I'm willing to be convinced to the otherwise, to the contrary. And statements like this from Dr. Brian Kirshen are kind of like what will slow me down to do such. Because again, Brian Kirshen doesn't know anything about. Well, he said he was asked about these before, but I don't know if he was told about the term Israel being Israel being in the potentially transcribed by or translated by Pastor Kelly in the Solitreo. I have no idea. But let's just say he had no such prior knowledge, and then decided to render like, if I could read something, I could potentially read the name Ario. Again, linguistically, that's close enough for me to pause and be like, oh, okay, let me take another look at this. Particularly when my man is saying, hey, we need to leave account for the historical context and consider what needs to go on from there. With that, I also want to touch on these pictures here and on what actually, let me just go back one. And what I sent Brother Bashir Mundi. Because it should be understood that there were multiple people amongst the slaves, and particularly the Gullah people, who had access to the Arabic script. Again, you had the Fulani, you had the Hausa, you had the Yoruba. You had more. You have people, and again, there's people who still currently use this. You have the Mandinka people / Mandingo people. There was a lot of people who had access to not just the Arabic script, but Arabic itself, being that they were from Islamic parts of Africa. I know some people are holding to the fact that the majority of the slaves came from Angola and Congo. That's debatable. I don't hold to that stance. I respect that some people do. I hold to the stance that there were a large portion of the Gullah people that came from Islamically influenced parts of southern Nigeria, northern Nigeria, the Senegambia, etc. And so I think it's worthwhile to slow the conversation down to see if there's any Arabic script. And again, I want to point out the fact that I'm talking about script, not necessarily language right now. If there's any script, Ajami script from these people, on these pews. Again, I want to make it clear to the family, Arabic script does not preclude there being any Hebrew written in the Arabic script. So Abu has confirmed that possibility. And I believe Brother Reggie from the conscious community has confirmed that possibility. So just because there's Arabic script on the pews does not mean that it's the Arabic language. It could be a whole other language written in the Arabic script. Just like how you see in Timbuktu, a multitude of languages written in Arabic script. You could literally have, like I said earlier, you could have the Ladino written in Arabic script, which is known as Al-Khamiado. So I think it's important to slow the conversation down to find out what scripts can be identified and from what people, because I think that's extremely important. Was it the Fulani who left the script? Was it the Yoruba who left the script? Was it the Hausa? Was it the Mandinka? Was it whoever? Was it the Bambara? Who was it? Who was it? And I want to just add that into the thing so people understand, like, even if we find Arabic script on there, what's in the script? What's possible to be written in that script? Because a lot of people make the argument, well, it can only be, well, if it's Arabic script, it's got to be Arabic language. Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. And that's why I sent the email to the first gentleman, because for instance, with David Bunis, right? He's the top dude in Solitreo. He's the top guy in that, right? However, I have not seen him talk about El Khamiado texts. So this person that I sent the email to, the first one, Dr. Kirshen, he's familiar with text, the romantic texts, romance languages from the Iberian Peninsula, etc., being written in Arabic script, along with being familiar with Ladino. So there's a lot of play on a lot of sides on this, and I hear a lot of arguments being made on a lot of sides, and I'm hoping my family can slow this thing down, because there's a lot of information to go through and a lot to learn historically about this stuff, and a lot of implications to be made that need to be understood based upon the fact that there's a multitude of people that make up the Gullah people, that make up the slaves coming into to South Carolina and Georgia at the time. So, like I said, God willing, going forward, I'm going to be putting together a multiple part series on what I think needs to be focused on and what I think is interesting concerning the pews. I'm also going to be giving my own alternative. I won't even say alternative. I'm going to be giving my own thought experiments out to people and asking questions to people and whatnot, because I'm very curious as to what people think about certain things, or if people are seeing things from certain perspectives, or if they're and this is on all sides, family, not just one or the other. This is on all sides. I got questions for everybody. And I'm down to take questions. I'm down to be challenged on anything. Because, like I said, as a proper skeptic, I'm willing to be convinced to the contrary on anything that I deal with. I'm willing to be convinced to the contrary. And I'm hoping that everyone involved is also taking that stance. And that's literally the point of what I'm talking about. I'm hoping that people involved are willing to take that stance, because if we're not willing to take that stance of being willing to be proven wrong and accept the contrary, and have falsifiable positions, we're not really having a scholastic discussion. We're not really having a scholastic debate. We're having a personal and emotional debate. And that's not very positive for the people to have in the public like that. I mean, I think it's most beneficial that if we're going to have these discussions and debates in the public, that we keep it scholastic, that we keep everything above board, and that we keep everything even keel. Same. Everyone got to run through the same gauntlet, so to speak. We keep the same standards for everybody. I'm already running too long. I did not want this to be this long. But with that, family, I hope you could glean something interesting from this. Stay tuned. Like I said, I have an interview with Bashir Mundi coming soon, coming after Ramadan, concerning his documentary, on Sapelo Island, and what he was able to learn about the different cultures there, and specifically the Islamic side of it. Because I think that needs to get brought out to the forefront a little bit. And again, touching on the blending of the cultures that happen within the Gullah people. I'm very much looking forward to my conversation with Benai Israel coming up, to where he's probably going to push back on a lot of narratives that I was just talking about. But agree or disagree, Benai gives you a lot to think about. I've learned quite a bit from Benai. For instance, I think Benai has brought out some information that I thought was very powerful, because whether or not you believe that the language on the pews deals with identity of the people at the church or not, I find Benai's information extremely important to the conversation, in the sense to where the people are, like, you can see with this information that the people are self-identifying as Israel. So whether or not you link the pews to identity or not, if you're one of them people, Benai's work lets you know you don't have to, because the people were already self-identifying as such. So to me, that's a fantastic service to the people, because to me that has the ability to take a lot of the emotion out of the situation, because you don't need the pews to prove that particular claim. You already got the people that are making that verbal claim themselves. What the pews have the ability to do through that lens is fill in the details of a very complicated history, family. Let's say that there are links to the Underground Railroad and the pews and the Nine Patch, etc. That's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Let's say that none of that's on the pews. Let's say it's a bunch of scratchings and it's one readable Arabic phrase from the Quran or whatnot. Okay, that's still a very big deal. Who left it there? What particular form of Ajami was it? What tribe was it? Etc. What's the context thereof? Because people are given a bunch of context for it. Like, so when you understand, like when Cornelia Walker Bailey's talking about people straddling the fence, and you got people on the PBS document talking about, you know what, the people who left this marking might be Christian still. They might not be Muslim. There's a lot to understand with that. There's a lot of cultural context that needs to get sifted through. And what I really like about this topic, and what I like about particularly dealing with the Gullah Geechee people in this, is the moment you jump into that research, family, you will naturally slow down, because you're talking about a multitude of people and cultures. So in order to give it its proper respect, you got to slow down. Otherwise, you might miss something. But with that, family, I wish to share my appreciation with everybody involved on all sides of the arguments. Abu, Pastor Kelly, Benai Israel, Morey Brown, Anonymous Hebrew, myself. Like this, no matter what side you come down on this whole conversation, it's a good conversation to have, and it's not a bad conversation to have. It's not a conversation that needs to be ran from, because the worst that can happen is that we learn a lot about our history and our ancestors' family. That's the worst that can happen out of this. That's the worst that can happen out of this. The best that can happen out of this is that what we learn will unify us in some way, shape, or form. So either or, I'm down for the conversation. I'm willing to take the worst and the best of it. Because like I said, at worst we learn more. At best we unify. So with that, family, I apologize for being a bit long-winded. This should have been a lot shorter. I hope y'all enjoy your day. I hope y'all are finding yourself blessed and healthy and whole. With that, family, I say peace and love.
you.